Hello, everybody. Welcome to another rendition of the Hicks from the Sticks podcast,
Mm-hmm.
episode number 90, folks.
Mm-hmm.
The big 9-0.
Getting close to 100.
That's right. Coming to you straight from Olds, Alberta. Beautiful Olds, Alberta, here in the bunkhouse.
Straight from the studio.
That's right, straight from the studio. Yeah. So yeah, we got another jam-packed episode here coming right at you today. I don't know who our guest is for today, but I'm sure
Mason didn't do his homework.
I didn't do my homework.
Today we have Joe Kootenay from Kootenay
I
Saddlemarker.
didn't know if we were going with Joe or if we were doing the other one, but
No, we're going with Joe today. We're going,
Right.
we're going with our new buddy, Joe. Stay tuned in a little bit to hear his interview about his saddle shop and how he makes saddles and all different other leather work. But before we get into that, first of all, quick shout out to the two links in our description. Bar Double Diamond, use code Hicks10 for any of your purchases there. Get yourself a wild rag before winter's over. And also Tall Timber Calico, link in the description if you want some meat. So
yeah.
Before we get into the interview, Mason, why don't we jump into everyone's favorite statement?
No, I have a question for you first.
JK.
Did you get into any exciting stuff this weekend?
I just was at the ranch feeding cows for James and Izzy as they took a little bit of a vacation.
Nothing that exciting then?
Nothing that exciting. Didn't break anything. Cows were fed. Horses were fed. I know that you had a uneventful but eventful weekend. So I think that's what you're trying to lean towards, eh?
Yeah. So I forget what day I started it on, but over the course of 3 days, I watched all of the Pirates of the Caribbean. I know it's technically pronounced Caribbean, but growing up, I always say Caribbean. I know you're the same way.
Yeah.
So I watched all 5 of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Yeah.
There's 5 of them. Fucking awesome series. Like, so good.
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean is slept on, man.
Yeah.
It's got to be one of the best franchises out there. If you think about it, there's not really any other pirate movies out there.
No.
They kind of have a monopoly on the whole pirate, like, character.
Well, yes.
Name another pirate movie.
Oh, what's that one called about the Somali pirates that take over the ship?
Okay, that's different. That's not like pirates. Yeah, they're pirates, but they're not pirates.
They're actual pirates.
Well,
they're modern day pirates.
Modern day pirates.
It's a pirate movie.
That's not a real pirate.
What that movie's
You
called?
think about,
That was a good movie. It had that
like
one
the
guy.
one where he's like, I am the captain.
Yeah, basically.
It has Tom Hanks in it.
Tom Hanks. That was a good movie.
What's it called? It's called like Captain Joe or something like that.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Captain Phil.
But anyways, you go on your little
something
rant
like
here
that.
for a second.
Anyways, amazing series. I had to give it its flowers, but it also made me like start thinking as well. And I was having this conversation with my brother the other day. Like, imagine how cool it would be to have like a pirate ship.
So
I was talking with Seth, and I was saying these millionaires and billionaires nowadays, they're doing it all wrong. Like, they're not buying any cool shit. They're just nerds. They're like, that's all they do. If I was a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever, I would have so much cool shit. I would have a pirate ship. Like, I don't want a yacht. I want a pirate ship.
Oh,
fuck a yacht. What are you gonna do with a yacht? What can you do with a pirate ship? You can be a pirate.
So, but Mason,
I know you just finished your thing. I want this included in the podcast, though. You should have let me cook. I was cooking. I wasn't done.
All right, you cooking now? You cooking?
Okay. First of all, I wanted to say as well that I do not condone piracy in any forms because pirates were pretty fucked up back in the day. If you hear about what they did, but Pirates of the Caribbean, awesome series. I want a pirate ship.
Yeah.
That is the conclusion. That is what I want. I want a pirate ship.
Okay.
I want the Black Pearl.
So the problem is we were playing shuffleboard at the ranch.
Yeah.
You were outvoted multiple times how dumb this idea is.
It is not dumb. It's cool.
Where you just store all your stuff in a pirate ship.
What do you mean? There's literally like where the captain's room and stuff is. There's space underneath where you have the cannons are. You clearly don't know anything about pirate ships. You actually asking that question made you sound like the biggest idiot out there.
Hate to say it, Mason, but I just haven't watched.
You know what?
Caribbean,
you know what? You'd also be a bad millionaire. You wouldn't be a good rich person.
No, I'd be a good rich person.
No, you don't.
Because I wouldn't be spending my money on dumb shit.
Well, you know what? When you get rich to the point where you just have like fuck you money, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you have like too much money that you don't know
Yeah.
what to do with it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be a good rich person. I would though. I'd have so much cool stuff.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd have a pirate ship.
Mm,
You
alright.
wouldn't.
Yeah, whatever.
And I would invite you on my pirate ship just so that we could go to shark infested waters and I'd make you walk the plank.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. This banter's turning. This just turning into bull crap. So, all right, we're gonna get everyone's
Also,
favorite.
I wanted to give a quick shout out as well. I don't know if you've seen any of the ads for it, but I guess this will be coming out on Sunday, so it will come out this past Friday. But Cocaine Bear is going into theaters. Have you seen any ads about that?
Yeah,
movie?
it looks a little messed up.
It does, but I think we gotta go watch it.
Nah, maybe.
Cocaine
Yeah,
Bear?
you know what? If it goes into Olds Theater, I'll go watch it.
Okay, deal.
Anyways, now let's get into everyone's favorite segment, the Western Word of the Week. Presented by, what's the dictionary called?
It's called Western Words, a Dictionary of the Old West by Raymond F. Adams.
What's the word this
Okay,
week?
you should be able to get this one, Dev. This is like a super easy one.
Okay.
49er.
49er. Is that the size of a liquor bottle?
No!
Um,
49er.
Isn't that like a gold rush person?
Okay, you're like, yeah,
It's a
literally.
gold miner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you're right. A title given to any man who went to California gold rush of 1849. And fun fact for you, Dev, the San Francisco 49ers was named after those guys. So good job. I think that's the first time you've ever gotten it right.
Well, it's just San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
Gold Rush.
I figured you should have been able to get it right. Or
Oh, yeah.
Minor 49er. He was the Scooby-Doo villain.
Oh, yeah,
Remember?
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a pretty spooky one.
So,
But
yeah. No, are we going with the second word this week, Mace?
do you want me to?
Yeah, just a quick one. What's one right
Okay.
off the top?
Buttermilk horse.
What's a buttermilk horse? I don't even know.
What the cowboys of some sections call a palomino.
Oh, that makes sense.
A buttermilk horse.
That makes
And
sense.
there you go.
Well,
Ain't that something?
thank you, Mason.
You're welcome.
Always doing a good job as always. But you know what, folks? We're gonna jump right now into our interview with Joe Kootenay from Kootenay Saddlery. So yeah, let's get started.
All right.
All right, we're rolling, Mason.
All right, we're rolling. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another interview on the Hicks from the Sticks podcast. Devin, do you want to interview or introduce our guest here today?
We will be interviewing
Yes,
this guy.
yes. Yeah.
So today we have Joe. Is it Kootenay?
That's right. Yep.
Oh,
Joe
perfect.
Kootenay. Originally, I thought the last name meant, or like when I originally saw your business, and I said, "Oh, it's Kootenay Salary." I thought it was Kootenay's as in BC, but that's apparently just your last name. And you're actually from Edmonton, correct?
Edmonton area. Yeah, I'm kind of between Morinville and Onaway. We're about 35 minutes northwest of Edmonton.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Hey, do you want, just to start off basic, do you want to just introduce yourself, where you're from, bit of your history type of thing?
Yeah, I guess. So like it was said earlier, my name is Joe Kootenay. Me and my wife own Kootenay Salary. When we were kind of in that northwest of Edmonton here in Alberta. We run a small operation here. We're seasonal cowboys around here, so we take everything in the summertime. The only thing we got to feed over the winter time is our horses here on the place. So it's a lot of fun, I guess. I've been doing leather work. I don't know. I tried to figure it out. I think it's been like 15 or 16 years or so, and saddlery. Been repairing them for a while, and then I just kind of started moving into building them here, like within the last year and a half, I guess.
Gotcha.
So did you grow up as well, where you guys are kind of at right now?
Yeah, actually, so I took over Main Ranch from my parents, here 10 years ago, I guess. So yeah, me and my wife raised our kids in the house I was raised in.
Oh, right on. Did you go to school in Morinville then?
I did, yeah.
Okay. What was that like?
It was good. It was good. It sounds like you know Morinville a little bit.
I know a guy who grew up there. I've never been there personally, but I've been told some things that it's there's some good and some bad parts.
You you know, when I was younger, growing up and going to school there, the worst thing about the town was the Champion pet foods. You know, so when they were cooking lamb and rice on Tuesday for dog food, the entire town smelled like that. Since they've changed it now, I don't smell it anymore. But yeah, the whole town reeked like dog food. It was good for the diet. You weren't hungry on those days, that's for sure.
Yeah, fair enough. And actually, so I guess our like little icebreaker question was me a fun fact about the town that you're in. Would you call that the fun fact that you guys got a pet food plan or?
Yeah, so like all the Champion pet feeds, like a lot of them, the Acana brand, I believe it is, of dog food is made right there in Morinville, which is kind of cool.
Sweet, awesome.
Is there anything else cool about Morinville?
You know what? Actually, Morinville's a weird place, okay? So Morinville's got like 7 liquor stores, 7 places to buy dope, and like 6 pizza joints, but not a single place to buy a pair of socks.
Oh, yeah. And only one church.
Oh no, there's a church on every corner. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's confusing to drive through there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because what even is the do you know what the population is of Morinville?
I imagine it's got to be about 9,000, maybe 10,000, something like that.
And there's no Walmart?
Well, St. Albert's 10 minutes down the road, right?
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's just jump right away into the saddle making and leather work. So, like you said, you started about 15 years ago. Did you just kind of pick up? I don't know what you use exactly for leather making, but did you just pick up some tools and go at it, or like what happened there?
No, there was a guy that lived down the road from me. He was, and he did a little bit of leather work, and I was visiting him one day, and we went into he had a little room in his house there, and he was kind of showing me what was going on. I was like, that's kind of cool, you know? So he was the guy that put the swivel knife in my hand for the first time. And then after that, I kind of went and did some cowboying, and you're constantly breaking stuff. And, you know, like down where I was, there was a guy I was working with, and he was throwing tack away. And then I was like, man, what are you doing with it? He's like, I'm throwing it. Like, can I have it? He's like, yeah, sure. So he's like, I don't care what you do with it, just as long as it ain't here anymore. So I went and got a few tools and kind of fixed it up. And then that's where I learned how to kind of mimic what was on the other side of, you know, like say a head stall or something like that, you know, and fix some stuff up. And then I kind of had a deal going with this one girl that used to go to these tack meets, these swamp meets and stuff. And then she'd sell it all. And then we just split it, right? So that's kind of how I started. And then, you know, I went on and did a bunch of other things and, you know, worked in an oil field and did all that kind of stuff. And went back roping, you know, and team roped for quite a while and did a little bit calf roping. Not much. But anyhow, I just kind of always had tools in the background. And, you know, where it really took off for me was when the lockdowns all hit, right? Because you're sitting in your house and you're like, man, there's nothing to do, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'll start doing this. And I was starting to hang out with some people on TikTok, because that's where you just find people during pandemic, I guess, right? So I was hanging out with some people and doing some tooling, and I was like, man, I might be the first guy that's tooling on TikTok. And then I looked up and there's like 100 people already doing it. So I was like, oh, okay, never mind. I guess this is kind of common. But, you know, like the more I started doing stuff on TikTok, next thing you know, like my order list started going and going and going and going. And I was kind of able to leave my 9 to 5. Me and my wife opened Kootenay Saddlery. And then, and that's kind of what we've been doing since, you know, so just building rigs and building rigs all winter and doing sketchy cowboy shit all summer.
That's awesome.
So you're like 100% self-taught, eh? Like you didn't go to any schooling or anything like that?
No. You know, my foundation was kind of self-taught. I mean, like, you know, 15 years ago, there wasn't really a whole lot out there for everything was in books, right? And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not really a book reading kind of guy, and there wasn't a whole lot of stuff on YouTube yet. So, recently, within the last 2, 3, 4 years, there's been a pile of stuff been put on YouTube, and, there's all kinds of stuff on Instagram, and, the tool builders and stuff. They've really promoted a lot of how to use their stuff, over the years and stuff. So it's kind of gotten a lot easier. But when I first started building saddles, I built my first saddle with a guy named Tyler Thompson. He passed away. It's a different Tyler Thompson than most of the people up here know. This guy was from South Dakota. He passed away kind of around Christmas there. But I built my first saddle with him. I went down there for 2 weeks and built my first rig with him, and then come back and built another one, and now I got a shop with 12 trees waiting to go.
Awesome.
So
that's awesome. And then, did you have any other mentors along the way that kind of helped you out, or?
Absolutely. I got a buddy who's got a pretty good eye for saddles and stuff, and he's always sending me pictures and stuff of saddles that look pretty cool, and and keeping me. Yeah, he helps me with the stuff that's really popular out there that people are kind of going for. And then there's a couple of old boys around that I talk to all the time. There's one old boy, old Jimmy. Actually, both guys named Jim. And one guy's a saddle maker out in Sherwood Park, and I kind of hang out with him every now and then when he's up here. Anyway, he's in Arizona for the winter now, but I kind of talk to him, shoot with him every now and then. And then there's another guy out in Okotoks, kind of I talk to quite a bit, and just some guys online and stuff that I run into here and there. Do your thing, learn a little bit, share some bullshit, complain about things.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, and you were saying how like you because like you're one of the only guys on TikTok I think I've seen that.
I've only ever seen you do it. So
like in Alberta, I would imagine it's probably a pretty small community of saddle makers as well, right?
There's the guys that I know, I think I can probably name about 10, 15, probably closer to 15 guys. I'm sure there's quite a few more guys out there that are building. I don't know who they are. They probably don't know who I am. But, as far as, competition and stuff goes, there's not really competition around here. And, in the capital region alone, there's 90,000 horses. And I think within reach, there's like 6 of us that are building saddles. So it's not too bad.
Gotcha. Awesome. All right. So I have no clue how the saddle's built. He probably doesn't either. So like, what's the process of building a saddle?
Yeah, but when you guys get her figured out, let me know.
All right.
First kind of thing that we do in a process is like obviously is tree selection, right? So I work with a couple of different tree makers. My main tree maker that I use is a guy named Oliver Rowland. He owns a company called Acacia Cowboy Co. He's down in Pincher Creek, or in that kind of area down there. And he so we I kind of work with him to figure out what trees I need, and work with my client, make sure that we've got a tree that's fitting horses really well. And then you kind of work on the design on the top end of the tree, and as far as the shape goes, right? Whether someone wants like an association and Olin Young or a Wade or something like that, and then so we figure that out and we size it up to the customer, and then it comes, he gets it built down there, he ships it up to me, and then from there I got just a raw tree. So I'll go to putting the ground seat in, which is the second most important part, is fitting a rider as well. So I put a ground seat into it, and then tie a horn on that sucker. Go from putting the rigging in, getting some skirts built up, and then just kind of go up from there. Start adding thin fenders and whatnot. That is a heck of a view of that cat's rear end.
This is Milo. He's our third host. He sometimes says something. But
So and then so I do a lot of our carving. Kind of at that stage, oil it up, dye it up, do whatever we got to do, and then roll them out. So
So is the tree kind of just the term used for like the frame? Is that essentially what that is?
Yeah. So like a tree, you know what? I got one right here.
Awesome.
So this is like rigged. So I got to rig it on this one, but as far as this goes, like this is the tree portion of things underneath here, and then obviously, you know, the swells are fork, right? And then you can like your seat and stuff, and the seat pad and everything that goes in there. That's about what it comes with. So that's what I start with anyway.
And then is there like a common type of wood to use for the trees, or is it kind of just personal preference?
Yeah, different guys will use all kinds of different things. I'm a little bit more modern on my trees, I think. Most guys were using different types of pine and laminates and stuff, and then they'd wrap them in rawhide. I like the modern approach of it, you know. So, you know, Oliver, he's using, and I know he's switching this up here a little bit, but he's using like an engineered wood, which I really like. And then he's doing like a fiberglass, you know, coating in fiberglass and stuff, right, to reinforce it instead of rawhide. And I really like that. I like building on them. I think they're really strong, and they have the right amount of flex, and they have a really good memory. So you know, they shouldn't warp and stuff over time, right? They should be pretty much the same thing from day one that they are on day 1 million, right?
Yeah.
So, do you know of any guys that do both, that do the tree making and the saddle making, or is it pretty common for it to be separate?
It's more common to be separate, but there are a handful of guys that do them. I know. So like here in Alberta, we got like Chuck Storms. I don't know if Chuck's still building or not, but he's a TCA member. So Chuck's probably one of the best saddle makers to ever walk the face of the earth, right? And he builds trees and the saddles right from, you know, start to finish, right? So every little piece of it. I've thought about it, you know, like moving towards that and stuff, but it's kind of a tough deal, you know, like, you know, in order to get your turnaround on what your investment is, you'd have to sure pump a lot of damn trees out, you know, to pay for the tools that you need to make them.
That's fair. When it comes down to making the saddle, what's like the hardest or most time consuming part?
Ooh. Yeah, okay, so skills wise, I'm gonna have to say sewing the bind is, you know, like to get a bind to sew really nice is probably the part that I think is the toughest. Because you're sewing through 3 or 4 layers of leather, right? You know, which is, you know, and you're doing it by hand. There's no machine to do it. But, you know, like I think the hardest part about being in this industry is dealing with people.
Fair enough.
Which sounds really rough, right? You know, and here's what it is there's all kinds of production saddles out there that you can go and get. You know, you go get your butt into one for $2,000. Well, my saddles start at $5,000, right? So when people look at that and they go, well, that one you ride in and that one you ride in, and not know the difference in the reasons why and what goes into them, it's hard for people to fathom that, right? You know, same thing when we go to build belts. Well, you can go to your local Western store and buy a belt for $100, right? Or you can get a custom one from me for $400, right? So what it comes down to is that, I mean, my clients are either really wealthy or real cowboys, and I don't really get a whole lot of the in between, if that makes sense. But we're constantly having to, you know, do things. That's kind of why I don't put a whole lot of content out on like TikTok or social media anymore. Because when I put it out, I'll get 1,000 freaking emails and messages about, you know, like, hey, I want a wallet. How much are they, right? And it's like, when you tell people and they're like, whoa, and you're like, it is what it is, right? Like,
yeah,
it's there's no lineup. I don't have to make myself affordable for you, right? Like, it's, you want my stuff and you're hooked on it. I don't know, work more. You know,
yeah, exactly.
Save a couple, spend less on money on beer or something.
Yeah.
Well, let's not get carried away.
Yeah, that was a little extreme.
I bet.
That's a little extreme, yeah.
So speaking of people, what's like the craziest request that you've gone for any sort of either whether it be saddle or like a piece of leather work?
There's a couple. So there was one, and this conversation went on for like 3 days. Okay, they're like, "Hey, we're looking for a harness for our dog," and I'm like, "I mean, sure, let's build it, whatever, right? Like, come on, let's do this, right?" And then they're like, "Yeah, we'd like some floral tooled onto it." And I was like, we like the flowers and stuff that you do, and and the design and all the stitch work and stuff, And then you would kind of go through this, and we got this thing all designed out, right? And I'm like, and it kind of gets to the point where they're like, "Hey, what's this going to cost?" And I'm like, this thing's going to take me like 2 days to make. There's $50-$60 worth of hardware in it. Like, we're looking at $600-$700 here, right? And the lady's like, "I am not spending that on this little Yorkshire Terrier," and I'm like, "Oh my god." So, like not even knowing what kind of dog it was for. But the weirdest ones by far, and this happens about once every 2-3 months. I'll get a request from someone that's looking for some weird bedroom stuff.
Oh, really?
Oh, like weird harnesses and things like that, right? And I'm like, nah. Like, we can't do that.
I feel like that's one of those things where it's like if you do it once, then you got to dive all the way in, and then that whole community would just be coming after you. So
yeah, people are like, "You make masks or whatever," and like the one lady, she calls me, she's like, "Hey, I need a gag," and I'm like, "I don't make bits, ma'am. Like, I can make you a headstall. You could put the gag, like." I was like, like a bridle? She's like, "Yeah, like I need a gag." And I'm like, huh. And then I get to talking, and I'm like, "Hey, so what's it going on?" And she's like, "Well, me." And I'm like, "I'm out." I'm out. Yeah. Like that's some straight up stuff. Like, I should, if it wasn't so embarrassing for people, I'd probably make some Instagram posts of some of the conversations I've had in emails and stuff with people looking for weird shit.
Just blur out the names, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So I think it would probably just lead to more though, right?
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you don't really want any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about the saddles here a bit, and we'll probably come back to that in a sense. But what else do you do? Like, do you just do saddles throughout the whole year, or do you have do you do other things as well?
Well, like I said, we we run a pretty good sized pasture operation here. So we do that, a little bit of light to moderate ranching, I guess you could call it. And then I do some announcing. Every now and then I can get kind of talked into doing some announcing. I don't get too many calls on that because I get a little rugged on the microphone, but yeah, between that and I mean, we build belts and wallets and stuff like that. I try to send a lot of that stuff out to people I know around that do that kind of stuff. Just it's tough the hardest thing about doing this is that it's kind of just me, like my wife takes care of our books and stuff like that, and I'm real thankful for that. But as far as stuff being built in here, it's kind of me, right? So I build it, I tool it, I got to do all the art, I got to do all the sales and do all that. And it's just when you're managing expectations, the expectations are the same whether it's a wallet or a saddle, right? So and you kind of limit the amount of people that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, it makes things a little bit easier. The things that I love about it is that like right now my stress is my stress, it's not someone else's stress, right? But you do things from time to time, like put timelines on yourself that you end up breaking your own timelines, right? And it's like, why did I even bother doing that, right?
You probably don't have enough time in the day to do all those littler things as well, eh?
Yeah, I'll take the odd one on here and there. Someone catches me in a good mood, I'll take something like that on. But as far as like general public and stuff like that, I'll generally just kind of push them in a different direction, you know.
Gotcha. What's if you ever do take on these extra kind of pieces in a sense, what's kind of your favorite thing to build?
Belts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
It's something that some people wear every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
They see it every day, so it's really useful. You know, they're fairly easy to build, and you know, I command a pretty good price for them. You know, so you know, if I can take a couple days and do 4 belts, you know, over the period of 2 days or whatever, it's a good little injection to the business. You know, but I mean, you get into a rhythm. Easier to do. They still take time, but yeah, belts.
So how nice did Jace's belt turn out, and how nice is the hat you got in return?
You know what? I like that hat. That's my go around. I have a 100X that I feel bad wearing sometimes. You know, like you're going to do some crap job or whatever, and you throw a 100X hat on your head, and you're like, man, I hope I don't wreck this thing.
Yeah.
You know, so I got one of them. I think it's like a 4X or something from Jason. I don't mind it. I like it. His belt though, no shit. I've built dog collars bigger than that guy's belt.
He's not a very big dude. He's one of our buddies, so we party with him from time to time. Yeah, he's not a very large human, that's for sure.
Well, so I'm talking to him, right, and I'm like, hey man, you know, like I want to get one of your hats, you know, and do a belt. I think, you know, I was like, I think I can help your content and help you grow a little bit, you know. I was like, let's not do this for exposure. Let's do this as a good trade and, you know, meet 2 people that are kind of in the same industry here in Alberta, right, and promote each other a little bit. And he was all over it, right from day one. And he started tagging me in videos and stuff. And I'm like, now he's tagged me, he's called me out. Now I got to get him back, right? So we made a little video series, and he's like, holy smokes, I can't believe how many people came out of this deal, right? I'm like, I don't know, man. It just happens that way. Yeah. But yeah, he's like, I'm like, so this is how you measure your belt. Give me your belt measurement. And he comes back, and it's like 28 inches. And I'm like, I'm like, what? He's like, I'm like, dude, you need to do that again, right? And I'm like, come on live with me and I'll show you how, right? So we go into like an Instagram chat or something, and we're on video chat, and he pulls out the measuring tape, and he gets down, and it's like 28 inches. I'm like, son of a gun. I'm like, are you sure? Like, are you holding it in the right place? Like, let me see the other end. He shows me. I'm like, man. So I saw the other day here on TikTok, and he's got it on, right? He's got the belt on. His belt turned out really nice. Like, I like it. It turned out pretty nice and stuff. And the tail's like coming up to his hip. I'm like, shit, I think you lost some weight, bro. I'm like, how did you do that? Like, so when I saw him, we met up at Tim Hortons in Red Deer. I'm like, Jace, I'm like, don't take this the wrong way, bud, but you kind of built like a reservation dog. And he's like, I had to explain to him what that was, and he's like,
just a scruffy, malnourished looking thing.
Just all balls and ribs. That's what it come out to.
It's all love, Jason. If you're listening to this, it's all love.
Oh, I guaranteed he's gonna listen to this. Yeah, for sure. It's all love. Yeah, he's. You know, I think Jace has a heck of an opportunity on his hands in building hats and stuff. He's kind of getting that business figured out. You know, he's getting pretty good at promoting and stuff. And, you know, it seems like every day his product gets better and better and better, right? And that's exactly what you need to do. So.
Oh, yeah.
100%. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So we talked about like your favorite piece. And I know we talked about a few weird pieces that have been requested. But like, what's something like someone asks you to do something, you know you can do it, but you're just like, oh, I got to do this now type of thing. Like, is there any pieces you don't like making?
Yeah. So, yeah, there's some pieces I don't like making. Like wallets now, I really don't care for making wallets anymore. It's just so kind of finicky and stuff. But there's a few you get some like oddball stuff, like some English stuff, and I don't know anything about English tack or saddles and stuff, and I ain't about to start pretending to know anything about it. If someone brings me a piece, I could probably mock it, right? But I'm just like, you know what? You ought to just put a horn on your saddle, and then I can sell you all kinds of other cool shit.
Mm-hmm. You ain't planning on getting on any one of those jumping horses anytime soon, I'm assuming, eh?
Have you ever worn spandex?
No.
Yeah, so I'm 6'4" and I'm 300 pounds. I don't think anyone wants to see me in spandex either.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So I guess kind of going back to like the saddles specifically, when you're making these saddles, are you making like one style of saddles, or can you pretty well make any kind out there?
I try to be as diverse as possible. There's a lot of guys that they make one saddle, like they have 2 or 3 different patterns, that they kind of use, and like their saddles kind of all look the same over time. And you know what? If that's what sells for them and they keep selling them, yeah, shit, keep making them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I want to get, pigeonholed in that. I want to try and be, as diverse as possible. So whether someone comes up and they want to wade, it's stripped down and all kinds of cool stuff, or they want, barrel racer wants a skirt rig, something. I want to be able to build everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to get pigeonholed in everything, but there's kind of a few that I'm kind of starting to get known for a little bit. So we do what we call a ladies breakaway rig, and it's a ladies rope saddle. And we worked with Oliver from Acacia there to get a tree kind of designed specifically for it, and it's a huge hit. Like, I have a lineup a mile long of girls that want these saddles, right? Because they work good too, right? It makes sense in how they're designed and stuff. So, but
for a lot of those, and for a lot of those like different ones, like say like cutting versus roping, is it just the horn that's different, or is there other things that are also different?
Yeah, there's other things that are different. So a lot of cowboy saddles, the bars would be a little bit different in where the stirrup slots and stuff are. The stoutness of things that are kind of built around it. The horn's different, the angle's different. Kind of the seat goes in different to things too. Like say a team roping saddle versus your regular everyday pleasure saddle, right? Kind of team roping rig's kind of built to sit you ahead a little bit. Whereas, like your everyday ranching is kind of built a little bit more for comfort, to be able to sit in that sucker all day. So, as opposed to, 5 minutes at a time or whatever you're doing in team rope.
Yeah. Actually, I want to come back to these breakaway saddles. Are you the first one in Alberta to introduce the style saddle? Is that why it's so popular for you?
I'm definitely not the first person to call a saddle a breakaway saddle. But where I kind of got the idea was doing some announcing. And the one of the place where I go and announce, I'm going to give a little bit of a shameless plug here out to my buddy Brad Bonnick with L2R Productions. And he hosts a pretty good show with a bunch of roping and stuff. So it's pretty good. So he's the guy that kind of got me announcing and started making me do that. And he has a breakaway session at the beginning of his ropings, right? So the girls are out there, and I'm sitting there, and I got like a perfect view of the whole thing for once, and I'm kind of stopping and watching, and I'm watching these girls, leaving the corner and having to try and get caught up, and then they get their calf roped. If they get to the front of their saddle and have a chance to rope it, they get it roped, and then they're fighting to kind of sit down and get their horse stopped, right? And I'm looking, and I'm like, most of these girls are riding a saddle that's like 2 inches too big for them, and they're riding a team roping saddle, which is meant to kind of sit you up, prop you up, and not so much sit you down, right? Or they're riding a calf roping saddle, right? So somewhere down the line, some of these breakaway girls got it in their heads that they need a calf roping saddle because it's kind of similar. Well, the end of a calf roping run involves you getting off the front of that sucker and getting moving, right? Like moving ahead. Whereas it's not the case in breakaway, right? You stay in that thing. So just give girls a fighting chance and a tool that's going to do it, you know. At the end of the day, as a saddle maker, I make a gimmick, right? I take something that's not natural, and I know people are going to be like, "What?" And I'll be like, "Horses were never made for us to ride on them, right?
Yeah.
It's you know, so we just kind of figured it out and made it work, and then we created these gimmicks to make, you know. So my job as a saddle maker is to make that gimmick as natural as possible, right? So whether that's for that horse or for that rider,
Awesome.
try and comfort out in a bit, and we try and make it look halfway decent too. Doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah. Speaking of like making stuff half decent, I noticed you do a lot of artwork, and that's all done by yourself as well, right?
Yeah.
So
I do all the carving.
what kind of goes into that? Like, are you like, because I'm assuming you're making impressions into the leather and then you're painting and stuff like that. Is that kind of just the process with it?
Yeah, it's a little bit more complex than that. So we go. That's why we need to have this conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are we paying this guy this kind of money? You know, but you know what it comes down to is you know, like, so I start, generally I'll pencil it in. You know, like sometimes I draw right on the leather. Sometimes I'll draw on a template or something off to the side that's kind of traced out and planted out. And we transfer that image over, you know, by pencil usually. And then we do what's called like a casing, right? So we case it, we get it wet, into the kind of the right moisture level. It feels right. And then we cut it in. So we cut it in with a swivel knife, which is, I think I can grab one here without bumping everything off the deal. So that's like a swivel knife, right? So we cut it into the leather with that. And then I use a series of stamps to highlight my lines, you know, and put detail and stuff like that in, put my backgrounds in. And then, you know, from there we kind of go to a handful of different processes, right? You know, within oils and backgrounds and antiques and all kinds of different things to give it the color and shade that you're looking for. But, you know, and sometimes paint, you know, I mean, we do a little bit of painting every now and then. Gotcha.
And then with the painting, is that just like going to Michael's and getting a thing of paint, or is that a special type of paint?
Yeah, I mean, like it's an acrylic, right? Which they sell. They probably sell a version at Michael's, but I use a product called Angelus. It's specifically designed for leather.
Gotcha. What's the coolest or even most complex piece of artwork that you've done for someone?
For someone? Oh man. One of my favorite rigs ever built was probably Don Marie's saddle.
Okay.
That was the first breakaway saddle. And we darn sure took our time and tooled that, you know. I really enjoyed that. Close behind that, even though I tell people like I'm gonna put that thing in a barrel and bury it somewhere where no one can see it. Right behind that though would definitely probably be number one. So my number one saddle. It's got some pretty cool stuff in it, you know, and you know we did like the conchos and everything on it, you know, so like it was like a fresh ground up build, which was pretty cool, you know.
That's awesome.
So are you ever do you ever work with any of like the exotic leathers, or do you kind of just stick with the regular
Like
type?
a cowhide?
Yeah.
It depends on what kind of gag I'm making for a girl. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, the ostrich is probably pretty nice for the gag, eh?
Yeah, it's tough to get exotics here in Canada. You know, like we get them from time to time. It's rare to find ostrich, right? You know, as far as like in common places. But you know, I do work with them from time to time, and I have some that's kind of kicked off to the side, you know, here and there. One of my favorite ones to work with, and people are like, "Are you serious? Is that a thing?" Is beaver tail. So they can tan a beaver tail, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's just, it's something a little different, right? But rawhide, so kangaroo is I was finding it really hard to get up here, and I kind of found a way to get it now legally.
Black market.
So,
Yeah.
no, legally, so we're good. I have that now. I'm using quite a bit of that now. But for the most part, the leather goes into my saddles, and anything that you get, it's either Herman oak, which is a really nice leather, kind of some of the best stuff that you can buy, and or Wicked and Craig, which is another. Actually, Wicked and Craig used to be a Canadian company at one point in time, and they outlawed certain assets and certain factions of tanning here in Canada, and they moved south. So, but they make a really nice product too. And, so those are the two main leathers I use.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Well, and different leathers are probably they're different to deal with as well. I would imagine some are softer than others as well.
Yeah, there's different tanning processes, right? So, the stuff that I'm carving and putting the design and stuff into, that's generally, most of that's veg tan, right? And then, from there you have different types of kind of tans of even of the same tans, right? So you got like what your latigos would be, right? Or your harness leathers with the tallows and fats and stuff in it, and then kind of going more towards like a garment stuff or like your shap leathers, chrome tans, and and other oil tans and stuff like that, right? So there's such a variety of leather out there that you use in different purposes.
Gotcha. Awesome. You're talking about how you have a guy in Southern Alberta, I'm pretty sure you said there, where he kind of helps you with like trends. Like obviously nowadays there's probably just trends that keep on happening. What are some trends that you've noticed over the past couple of years you've been doing this?
In saddles, of things that came back. Well, I mean, you see trends in a lot of things, right? Like, I'll start with like the fashion stuff. So, hey dudes, right? People tooling hey dudes. Like that was a big thing. And okay, so there's one thing that I hate doing. Okay, is hey dudes. Like, so to put it into, like you imagine trying to get your hands into a shoe and work, right? Okay,
yeah.
Well, imagine if your hands were as big as mine. Like that's a can. Okay.
Yeah, good luck, right?
It just doesn't work, right? And then the other thing I can't stand doing is buck stitching, right? Like I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It drives me nuts. But buck stitching seemed to come back as a trend, and like where people kind of like that. And then so between the hey dudes, those, the tool belts with people's names on them, that's kind of always been a thing. The Sheridan style is kind of really, changed, not changed, but, there's kind of a certain look that people really go for now in the trend. But in the saddles, things that have come back are like quilted seats, right?
Okay.
Like people love them quilted, some people are really starting to love them quilted seats on saddles, and then there's some things that I do, I guess, that, like it's kind of one of my signature things. So every saddle that I build that leaves here, has like stitch latigos, which is kind of cool. I think it's, trendy or whatever. I don't really care if it's trendy. I like them. I think they look badass. So every saddle I build gets those. But like you see guys rolling back and forth between like Cheyenne rolls, pencil rolls. I really hope that like rawhide that rawhide metal lacing deal that, they were kind of doing in the back of some Cheyenne roads. I hope that never comes back. That trend can stay with the bell bottoms.
Gotcha.
For sure.
Awesome.
So are chaps the easiest things to make then when they don't need a lot of designs?
No. So chap making is almost an art in itself, right? Like it's like working off of people's legs and stuff, and people are shaped different. So it's not like you can just pull a pattern off the wall, plop it down on the table, and like, all right, I would make a set of chaps. Like it's people come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes, right? And so that's a tough one to build, and I build them, but like I'm okay at them at best, right? Like there's some people out there that are unreal chap makers. I'm like, I can make them. Your legs are gonna stay dry.
Yeah, fair enough. Have you ever attempted to make those like woolly chaps or those like
the woolies? I'm always on the hunt for Angora, right? Which is the goat that you do it. And I thought, like, I always kind of thought that Angora was like, hey, you need 2 Angora hides and away you go. But like Angora is not a very big animal, so like you kind of need a handful of them suckers to be able to do it, right? And if I were to make a set, when I do make a set, because I'll get my hands on some sooner or later. Right? I don't care if I have to raise them Angora sheep myself, and like not let my kids name them or whatever. One day I'll have a set of Angoras, right? Which are going to be totally useless to me because we run a grass operation, so it's like my horses in the wintertime are just like, you want to do what, And, but yeah, I'd love to make a set. I think they look cool.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right, I want to jump over to we talked about the social media side, and like, what gave you the urge to get onto social media, or were you thinking of more as like a marketing thing for your business?
Shoot, when I first got onto like TikTok, and TikTok's probably my biggest one, right? Is when I first got onto there, I was bored in a lockdown, right, and going crazy like everyone else. So it was I kind of went and did a bunch of comedy stuff. I was messing around and making jokes and making fun of people and stuff. And I don't think you can really do that on there anymore. But we'd, and then I'd started tooling while I was live with people. And then at some point in time, you kind of have to make your decision on what your social media is going to be. If it's going to be a business tool or an entertainment tool, right? It's kind of hard to leave it as both. You have to be pretty careful on what you do there. Now, you invest so much time into something and building something for it to get deleted or something, out of your control. It's just not, so you have to be pretty careful. But yeah, what was the question?
Wow, I was just asking if you got started, and then I guess now it's like a marketing tool. And do you still quite enjoy doing the social media side of it? Like, is that something you like doing?
Yeah, I mean, I do. It's the social media side of things is almost a full-time job in itself, right?
We've even noticed it.
Yeah, if I make a video that's 3 minutes long, it took me an hour to make that sucker, right? Yeah. And which is like, people are like, oh, boo-hoo, like it's like, well, but at the same time, if I'm not in here working, like there's no income coming in, I have to kind of be really strategic about it. But my social media approach has really changed over the last kind of 6 months, and it's really worked out kind of for the best. I think I released my worst video here like last week that I've released in a long time. I think it got like 500 views, and I was like, what the heck, right? But I've had a couple videos, hitting million, over 1 million views and stuff now, and so I just kind of changed my approach and how I do it. And, I went from kind of doing like, I want anybody and everybody to follow me to like starting to hunt certain demographics now in social media and, and target audiences and stuff. And once I kind of figured that game out, then I just made my social media a lot more effective for my business. I don't have to do it anywhere near as much.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
The power of the hashtags, right?
It's 1000% it, right? So, social media is a tough one, in understanding the different ones, right? So Facebook is people that right? And it's people that sharing it to people they know, sharing it to people they know, and like there's a link or a trail that always comes back to you some way or another through people that right? There's a relation there somewhere. Instagram used to kind of float you out here and there, and then but at the same time, you still have to tell it kind of who you want to see your stuff, right?
Yeah.
TikTok has no idea who to show your stuff to unless you tell it to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I find even half the time, even making a caption for TikTok, most of the time you spend doing hashtags and like, all right, which ones do I want to do today, type of thing. So yeah, that makes sense. So we talked about a few crazy stories about the gags and stuff like that, but have you got any weird requests from social media? Because I know we've talked to a few social media people, like the egg industry and stuff like that, and they've had some weird toe pics type of shit go down. Has that happened for you yet?
They had some weird what?
Well, like dudes like asking, these girls for like, feet pics and shit like that. Right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, every now and then I got to remind people that I'm married, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, but I mean, outside of that, like, you sure meet some doozies on there, right? Like, just in people that come along, right? And you can't believe it's like, for the life of me, I don't get it. At times, and I can't imagine what some of them, especially some of them girls, what they go through, right? Like I have straight teeth and a big set of knockers. I'm going to be fucking famous. Like that's, and it works for so many, right? And but you imagine the creeps that kind of roll in through the background of all that, right? Like, and it's just like I've never gotten that, I get people that are, sometimes like I'll get a call, someone looking for a saddle or something, and I got to listen to sometimes some lady telling me about her half Arabian, half whatever, something rather another that doesn't like to be tied up, and like it's just like her. You listen to people's horse trouble and stuff, right? And it's like, do you want a saddle or no?
Yeah. What's going on here?
Let's talk business now.
Yeah. There's days. Yeah, there's days where I feel like I should be charging for counseling or something.
Yeah. Awesome. Before we get into the cowboy side of things, do you have any more about the leather work or anything like that?
No. I think that's awesome.
So my last question is, what's the future of this business? Like, are you gonna die by the knife type of thing, or what's going on with that?
It's when I got this thing going, when me and my wife got this thing going, I woke up and work, right? So I'd wake up and I'd work, and then I'd wake up in the morning and then go to bed at like 1-2 o'clock in the morning after working the entire day, right? I don't know how many meals I've eaten at my tooling bench. It's in the hundreds, of eating out here. So I think kind of what I want to do is I want to get to the point where this is my price. It's not common. I don't build it. You're not going to see these things everywhere. Like getting good price for one of stuff is kind of where I want to go. so that I can take some time back, and spend it with my kids. My kids are playing hockey and stuff, and shoot, I love coaching hockey. It's a lot of fun, hanging out with them and stuff. So my kids are kind of getting to the age now where they can kind of start riding and stuff. So I kind of I want to make a trip back and do some road, some roping again. And kind of start packing my kids through that lifestyle, maybe doing some junior rodeo stuff with them. So I'm kind of trying to find, other ways to supplement my income, like whether it's, maybe we need to start feeding some cows here during the wintertime, or maybe we need to, do some other things so that my shop time becomes more valuable because there's not as much of it, if that makes any sense. So, like I'll build saddles and do leather work for as long as I can, as long as my hands will let me, right? So, but
gotcha. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I want to dive in now to the ranch and slash the cowboying side. So you've been cowboying since you could walk, basically, eh?
Yeah, no.
Oh.
So I grew up here on the main ranch here with Dad and stuff, and Dad cowboyed back all the way back to the 70s or whatever, right? With PFRA and he ran this place here, and he worked here for the band farm for quite a long time as well. So I've always kind of been in and around it. We've always had horses, cows, and stuff around, right? So if that goes. Growing up, I was a competitive hockey player, right? Like I played hockey and baseball at fairly decent levels, and so my cowboying didn't really start till I was in as an adult. So when I come out of high school, don't tell anyone, but I went into law enforcement. I was in law enforcement first. That was my career.
You were a popo, eh?
Yeah. So it came to the point where I kind of realized that's not really what I wanted to do, right? And I was like, and some people asked me, like, what do you want to do then? It's like I just want to do sketchy cowboy shit, that's where I want to go. And so I literally picked up one day and moved to Texas, and kind of went around and kind of lived that a bit. And I always hung out locally. There's an arena here kind of close by, and hung out there and stuff and ran their shooting. But I started doing that, and I ended up actually coming back to Alberta and working on a few places and stuff. That's where it really kind of kicked off for me, where I got some saddle time, and I really took team roping. We did we did a ton of roping, so there was an arena, 10 minutes up the road from me. Potts used to run here, and shit, them guys there, I was riding their horses, and we just rope all day, right? So rope all day, and then it got to the point where we started going to some jackpots and stuff, and I was a pretty low number, right? So they'd low numbered roper, and so then they were kind of a little bit higher number roper, but we could get into them lower number ropings together, right? So they went and kind of created a little super weapon, and we went and made a bunch of money and traveled all over, and then I started rodeoing, kind of busted out, went rodeoing, and spent quite a bit of time doing that and practicing and roping it all over the damn place, but that time when I started rodeoing, I kind of got away from jackpotting, so I went and did the amateur thing for a few years, and then I bought a permit, and there's a guy come up at that time. He come up from Oklahoma, and we roped together for a summer, and we filled our cards, and then I would pro rodeoed after that for a while, and then one day I woke up and I was like, son of a bitch, like I'm kind of behind everyone my age. All I got is some cool horses and a truck and trailer, and dang it, you know, like I got some really cool stories, but you know, like I need to kind of establish and make a life. So I ran one out of the hills and married her and had a couple of kids, and you know, and now kind of went back, but you know, like, you know, we're on the ranch, so this year will be kind of my first year coming back, you know, as far as, you know, team roping steady. You know, I kind of got into some pens here and there, you know, every now and then, but you know, so this year will be kind of my first year back, you know, going hard at it. So I got one horse right now down with Cody in Arizona, and he's getting it moving right now for me. We got another one, the local trainers riding here. I got, you know, we got no indoor barn here, right? So either need to send horses south or someplace with a barn, and then we come back and be able to make a run at it again this year. You know, as far as ranching and stuff goes, it's kind of, you know, around here we kind of half between, you know, horse and the quad, right? So Japanese bred horses are kind of fun sometimes too.
Yeah.
Where do you? I got a kind of, because you got it into it, what some people would call late in a sense. Some of these guys, they start when they can walk, type of thing. Do you have any advice for anybody that wants to get into cowboying and maybe they think that it's almost too late, like they're 18, 19, 20, even like 35 or anything like that?
My best advice would be to ride, like just ride, you know, and it's not just for cowboying, it's for anything, right? Whether, you know, you're playing baseball, hockey, you know, picking up a trade like making saddles and stuff, the more you have your hands in it and the more you get around it, the more familiar you get with it, right? So, you know, but once you ride as much as you can, and you'll find the right people to be around, right? So, you know, when I roped with amateurs, I was an amateur. You know, when I started roping with pros and stepping out of my element, that's when I started getting halfway decent, right? You know, not saying that I was like, you know, I'd love to be able to sit here and say, yeah, I made the CFR and all kinds of stuff, but I didn't, right? But you know, after 3 years of roping, I think it was like 3 years of roping, I filled my CPRA card. So, you know, I learned some stuff pretty quick, you know, and that's just from getting around guys that are really, really good, you know. You have no choice but to step up to that level.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
sure. So at the home ranch there, I don't know, did you want to keep on going?
Well, I was going to ask about some stories from Texas.
Yeah, actually, I want to hear about some of those as well.
You got any good stories from Texas while you were down there?
Oh, actually, you know what? There's a pretty good one. So I'm down there, and I'd never left the country before, right? Like, it was my first time out of Canada, and I'm, you know, 23 or something like that, 24 when I left law enforcement. And I'd never been out of the country before. So not only am I leaving the country, I'm going as far as I could pretty much possibly go in a vehicle without having to deal with like cartel. I'm talking like South Texas. Like, I went so far south that the next step was a boat. Like that's what's next, right? So I'm by the Gulf, and so I'm looking for cowboying jobs, and I couldn't hardly find any. And you know, you're kind of trying to get to know people and stuff like that. Anyhow, I got this one call, and they're like, "Well, so and so is looking for a hand. You know, you just go up there and see him, and he'll probably hire you." I was like, "All right." So I kind of got some directions, right? And it's not like up here in Alberta or in, you know, I think even Saskatchewan, kind of set up on that grid, you know, where it's like 2 miles that way, 1 mile that way, away you go, right? It ain't like that. Like, it is like there's freaking roads everywhere. You don't know where any of them go or if they meet up to anything else. You're just going, right? So I'm talking with my dad on the cell phone. This is back kind of when you could still do that, right? And I'm like, he's like, so what's it like down there? I'm like, wow, Dad, it's freaking hot. Like the air conditioner's going in here. It is full blast. I'm like, around here they work really early in the morning, and then they work late at night, and they sleep all damn afternoon. And I'm like, and he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's the weirdest thing. And then, you know, so I'm going through this, and I'm driving, and I'm like, Dad, shit, I think I took a wrong turn. And he's like, why is that? I'm like, a friggin' giraffe just crossed the road. And he's like, what? I'm like, and there's zebras. I'm like, there's freaking zebras. He's like, son, what are you on? You know? And I'm like, but like, there's these ranches down there, and they just own that kind of stuff. You know, like, oh, like African game and all kinds of stuff. And they're, you know, like, so I'd crossed onto this guy's ranch or whatever, and there was, you know, some Texas gates, which in Texas they just call them gates. But anyhow, so as they're going, and crossed into this place, and there's like this African shit running around here. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a wheelbarrow. I'm like, Dad, I gotta call you back.
Yeah.
Like, so I rolled up on this place, and sure enough, that's what, you know, that was it. So that was one. And the next one, this is an odd one. So I found myself up in like Dallas, Fort Worth, right? And I'm like, I don't know anybody, okay? And so, you know, I hate to admit or recognize racism in any fashion, right? But like, I'm in Texas, and the white people think I'm Mexican, and the Mexicans see that I'm 6'4", and they know I'm not Mexican, right? So, like, I can't find anybody to hang out with, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, so I'm in Billy Bob's. You know, they had this Billy Bob. They still have it. It's like, the bar's like 6 some odd acres or something. Like, it's huge, right? And it's got like a bull riding pen, and they have bull ridings in it every like Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, right? And I don't know if they still do that or if it's still there, but back then they did. So, you know, I'm sitting there, and I'm talking with these, you know, and starting to talk to this guy, and he's like, shit. He's like, you don't speak Spanish, do you? I'm like, no. And they're like, how do your, you know, like, how do your relatives feel about you not being able to speak Spanish? And I'm like, well, they're pretty good because I'm not Mexican. And they're like, you what? You know? And we get through, and they're like, so you're Native American from Canada? I'm like, yeah. And then suddenly I was like the hottest commodity going.
Oh.
Right? I'm like, this is good. This is exactly where I want to be, right? So I'm hanging out with these guys, and I've got a good group of friends now at this point, and one of my buddies he was the bullfighter in the Billy Bob's pit. Okay, so he's like, son of a gun. He's like, Joe. He's like, so and so ain't coming, and I guess they rotated through bullfighters pretty good there. Hey, so he's like, you want to come and help me fight bulls? And I'm like, no. Like, negative. 10-10. This is not happening, right? He's like, you got it. So finally he talked me in there. So there I am in a big jean skirt with some suspenders, getting ready to fight bulls for the first time, you know. And I'd like to say that I saved some kid's life and this and that, but it wasn't. It was bad. I think the most thing that was in danger in that pen was definitely me, you know, trying to run away from things. But to be able to go and do some of that stuff down there is pretty cool. You know, it's a different world. You know, like there's some places, you know, so like when I first moved, you know, so I was gonna go and ride horses, and you know, like Weatherford's like the cutting horse mecca of the world, right? Like all the best cutting horses are in that country, and I was gonna, you know, so that's kind of what I wanted to do, and get around and ride them and stuff, and so I was gonna move to, you know, Fort Worth, you know, and Fort Worth is, you know, within shot of Weatherford. It's not too bad to get to work every day and stuff like that, and I rolled up in this one place, and you know, like there's some places where it's like I kind of wanted my hand on my pistol, and that like there was some rank places, right? So I was trying to find a place to live, that I'm like, I want a place to live where I'm not going to get robbed. So there's this one place called White Settlement, and I'm thinking it's got to be a good neighborhood. Son of a gun, it's called White Settlement. We got to be good.
Yeah, right.
I go in and I think I identified 3 different gangs as I'm rolling into this place. And I'm like, no, it's time to go. So, but it was different. It was a pretty cool experience, actually.
Did you ever work for that guy with the African game? Like, were you herding giraffes or some shit like that, or like?
No,
that was just the wrong turn.
Oh, that was just the wrong turn.
Yeah.
Oh,
no. It was the right place. It was the right place. Those were his. Yeah. So I got out, and he they were kind of starting a lot of horses and selling them as like 3-year-olds, kind of prospects and stuff, or 2.5-year-old prospects and stuff. And I got out, and my truck, went back up 4 inches when I got out of it, right? And that guy's like, dude, he's like, I don't care how handy you are. He's like, you will cripple every horse on this place. So, I end up now not even working there. Yeah. It was there's always some fun cowboy and stuff, kind of goes on. I was telling a story today that was pretty good. Actually, last night. I'm gonna tell this one, okay? And nobody's allowed to judge me because this is like 20 years ago when you're allowed to do this kind of stuff. Okay.
all right.
So I get we had a grass operation here and we're starting and like I can pretty much ride right from our barn here and right into any of the pastures that I run, right? And so like I think I had like 600 or 700 heifers over on this one side over here, and I go out there and I kind of have to check them every day, obviously, and so whether I'm checking them by truck or on a horse or whatever, right? And I ride out there one day and there's this them big white Great Pyrenees mountain dogs.
Oh yeah, classic farm dog.
Yeah, right. Well, there's one out there, and he is chasing the shit out of these heifers, right? And I'm like, get out of here. This is your first warning. Like, get out of here. This is your second warning. Third warning, okay, this is time to go, right? Like, and it's kind of common to carry something in your truck at that time. I don't think I would so much do it now. So I get out and I let this dog have it, right? And I'm like, okay, that's done. So I go home and think nothing of it, a whole bunch. And I definitely don't enjoy, dispatching dogs. Like I'm a dog guy. I love dogs. Next day I go out, son of a bitch, there's a Great Pyrenees mountain dog chasing the shit out of these cows again, right? And I'm like, oh man. So this time, like I plugged that sucker twice, and drove off, and I'm like, man, I don't like doing this. I hate doing this. Couple days go by. Third day I go out there, son of a bitch, if there ain't another, if there ain't a Great Pyrenees mountain dog chasing my horses, and then running out, I'm like, you son of a gun. Now you're coming right to the house. So I let this thing have it right between the eyes, like just stacked it up, right? And I'm like, you're done. And checked, went up and checked, I'm like, okay, this is done. About a week goes by and I'm riding, and I kind of used to ride out of here, get out, go check cows. And then there's like a kind of a general store just west of here, kind of just on the outside of the pasture there. And I used to go there, I'd get a pop, I'd drink a pop, and I'd, bullshit with the person that ran the store for a little bit. And then I'd ride back, and come back and unsaddle, and I'm kind of done for the day. So I get there and I'm drinking them, Happy Pops, that they have in Pop Shop Pops or Happy Pops. So I'm drinking one of those, and right by the door, there's this, that cork board with like, the local, local deal where they're like for sale or this, right? And I'm reading this, so I'm like, oh, hey, look, so-and-so's selling a boat. And then I get down and I see this one that's like missing 3 Great Pyrenees mountain dogs.
Oh no! Oh no!
I'm like, son of a bitch. You know, so here I thought it was the same one that was haunting me over and over again, but I done wiped out this lady's whole pack of Great Pyrenees mountain dogs that were chasing our shit.
Oh no!
Was it one of your neighbors, or where did the dogs come from?
So like there's like a summer village over here, right? And this lady had like 4 or 5 of these dogs. Well, she had a male and a female. They had pups, and she was this kind of lady that just couldn't sell them, right? Like she's like, oh no, they're family now. Like I'm raising you, I'm raising your kids and your kids' kids. Like this lady's just nuts, right? So I called her, you know, and I'm like, you know, I ripped the tab off and I called her and I was like, you don't really have to look for your dogs anymore. And she's like, well, what do you mean? And I told her what happened, right? She's like, I thought it was the same dog, you know, like, I didn't realize there were 3 of them, right? I was like, but still, I was like, each and every one of them was justified in what happened. And she's like, well, you can't do that. That's illegal. I'm like, well, ma'am, I'm totally within the law, you know, like it's, you know, like it's something you're able to do. I was like, in fact, you call the RCMP and they'll let you know. So about 2 hours later, I get a call from the RCMP. You know, did this happen? I'm like, yeah. Like, what were they doing? And, you know, or where was it? And I told them. And like, what were they doing? And I told them, and they're like, yep, I just shot them too. And he's like, and I was like, cool. You know, so, but yeah, that's, you know, just kind of some of the stuff that you get into and stuff over time. There's some fun. There's some wilder stories that I've realized that I can't tell too often anymore because the internet's kind of a permanent place, and my kids might see this shit one day.
Yeah.
Well,
fair enough.
True. Yeah.
One last Texas question: did you ever find a snake in your boot one morning?
I absolutely am freaking terrified of snakes. Okay, I cannot stand snakes. Whenever I saw a snake, I killed that son of a bitch. Like it was over for that snake, right? So one day, you know, one of the guys I was living with down there, he comes out and there's like this little pond, you know, kind of just around the corner from where we're living, you know, maybe 100 feet away, and kid comes running out, you know, and she's like, there's this bull snake over by the thing, right? And I'm like, are you serious? Right? So I'm like, I don't know what the fuck a bull snake is, but they call it a bull snake, and bulls aren't normally the gentlest thing in the world, right? So you're thinking like, it's got to be some badass like man-eating snake. I get there and this some bitch is like 10 feet long. I grab a shovel and I cut that sucker's head right off, right? And the guys come over and start giving me shit, and they're like, that one doesn't even bite. I'm like, what do you mean you don't bite? I'm like, I don't care what he is. This tastes better without that sucker. And but yeah, I hated them. You know, like as far as like snakes and boots, like spiders. My first night in Texas, living in that shady place like that, you know, so I'm sitting there and I'm sleeping, and I wake up and I'm sleeping on my back. I wake up and there's this wolf spider, looking thing coming down from the ceiling. He's like a foot away from me, looking me in the eye, and this son of a bitch is like that big. Like I'm like, So we went to Academy and I bought a pistol, and we just took care of things after that.
Yeah, say less.
Yeah.
So I guess pivoting to your own operation. So you run just summer cattle at your home place, correct?
That's right. Yep.
And is that on a custom grazing basis, or do you buy in and sell out?
No, I like other people's cows.
Fair enough.
I'm a big fan of other people's cows. I figured out quite a while ago that that's the way to make money in this industry. It's not have any risk. I'm the only guy guaranteed to get paid other than the auction house.
Fair enough.
So when your dad used to run the ranch, did you guys have a cow-calf operation, or what did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, our cow-calf operation was never really any big or nothing like that. He ran the local one though here, and I think it was a few hundred head, right? But nothing real crazy like some of the operations that are down in even southern Alberta now. Shit, I heard stories about guys that are calving 15,000-20,000 head now, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Could you imagine 15 or 20,000 of those being like 10,000 or 5,000 or 6,000 of those being heifers? That'd be fun.
Right? Y'all ever ran heifers on grass?
I haven't. No, not yet.
Don't. I'm going to help you with that. Just don't. Because it's like, all right, you remember when you were younger? Like how old y'all? Like, you guys got to be what, early 20s?
22.
22?
Yeah. Okay, so remember would that be like 4-5 years ago, or whatever, when y'all were like 18, 19,
Yeah.
18, right? You remember them girls where you're like, this one's good to party all the time, right?
Yeah.
And you call that one, she's coming out, like, oh, this one, we call her, and they have friends that are like kind of run like them, and they're, their dads don't like that shit, right? Like, don't be running around with these stray boys in this town, like this is a bad deal, right? That is what it's like trying to manage heifers. Like, it is. They could be standing in 4 feet of grass and they want to go to the other side of the fence. Like,
yeah, fair. Gotcha. I'm
Good to know.
I'm
Good
gonna take
to
your
know.
advice.
Yeah.
yeah.
So how does that business calendar kind of run? Are you taking them in like June 1st, like your clients' cows like June 1st type of thing, and then they're out September 30th, and have you found? I'm assuming you found quite a bit of success with this style of operation.
Yeah. So, it's kind of pretty common, right? Guys do it now. It's young guys. You're about to find this out if you're wanting to get into this industry and stuff. Is that I don't know how to tell you guys this, but it is going to be damn near impossible for y'all to own land unless you inherit it.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
And to be able to turn it around and make money on it is going to be extremely tough. So to participate in this kind of thing, you have to figure out how leasing works, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like to be able to manage leasing and then do provide work and services and stuff like that, and kind of middleman things and learn how to do that and management skills. That's where you're going to find where it is, right? It is tough to do it. And you think about it now, if someone wanted to run cows now, and like around here, we get kind of that 6-to-1 rule, right? 6 acres, 1 cow, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of a good rule of thumb. It changes from place to place, I'll give it that, right? But for the most part, that's about what it is. And you think about how much acreage you have to be able to turn around $400 on a calf. That's a tough place to make money, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Right. So managing leases and running leases and stuff like that's kind of a good way to do it. And you'll find, you get around there long enough, you'll find some guys that, they have a half section. It's like, well, shit, that's a pretty good stop in a day, and you take care of that kind of stuff, or like you run a lot of quarters here and there, right? You got 30 head out here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but be prepared to get phone calls from irate people all the time. Your cows are out again. Your cows are out again. It's like, well, that's what cows do. They get out.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's kind of the fun of going and putting them back in and stuff, right? So, if that's kind of how operations need to look nowadays, compared to, guys are doing it. Like you think about how many farmers that are big operations, and their only way out of this thing is to hope to sell it to one of their sons or daughters to go and run that thing after, right? And what does a quarter of land go for around you guys' place? You know, because around here it ain't cheap.
Last I heard, arable quarter between a male and 1.2.
Right? When are you going to recover that?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Unless canola goes up to $24 and stays there, there's no way. So,
Wow. So canola goes up to $24. You know who's making money in that deal? John Deere, for selling you a $1.1 million X9 that everyone thinks they need to have, right? So I don't like. What do you do for work now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm like a crop input salesman, and then he's a landman. So
perfect. So, you know, if a guy wants to get into farming nowadays, I think you should be really good at mechanicking and be able to fix old shit. That's
no doubt
what it needs to look like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just do input stuff. That's awesome. We're kind of messing around with the idea of doing some small scale farming around here as well, right? Picking up some crop leaf and stuff and kind of going after that end. But, you know, doing it once again with, you know, modern inputs with antique equipment is what it's going to end up looking like. You know?
I've been in the whole salesman side. I've been scouting fields for like 2 or 3 years now, mostly in southern Alberta, down in the Lethbridge, in the Pivot Country, and then I've just moved up here. It's like the guys that start fresh, and I've only seen 1 or 2 guys, but they're some of the most creative and also some of the most like regenerative or sustainable farmers out there, because they use whatever they can to farm, right? And they use the cheapest but the most effective techniques for not this year but the year after that, right? So it's definitely if you want to start fresh, you have to be super creative with what you do.
And I think that's where, like, as far as a breeding operation is going to go here on our ranch, like that's where we're going to kind of go with it, right? Is learn how to make the most out of the least, right? You know, like, so it's a lot easier to manage risk when there's not as much of it, right? You know, so how does that look? You know, it's like, well, instead of, you know, taking 100 head of calves to town at four weights, right? And, you know, and coming back and making $300-400 a piece on them if you're real lucky, right? Maybe, you know, growing some of that stuff up and getting them right from kind of farm to plate, you know, and then a guy can make the same kind of amount of money with like 25 head, you know, nowhere near the amount of work, you know, and instead of having to have, you know, like, it's like you get the more stuff you do, the more dependable equipment you need around you, right? The more dependable your equipment is, the more money it costs, right? You know, my tractor right now is a 1985 International 3288. You know, I paid $13,500 for that sucker. But you know what? But you know what? I own it.
That's right.
I own every bolt in that sucker, right?
Yep.
I don't owe anybody any money on it at the end of the year, and so I get to keep it. So, you know, can I ask that thing to feed 50 head all day long? You know, like, heck yeah. You start stepping out, you know, 200-300 head. Well, kind of going to need some more tractors, right?
Yeah.
And then, so it's like, you know, when you start to think about it, like, how free are you? What does your freedom really look like? How do you value that, right? Because, yeah, you're working for yourself in a sense, but at the end of the day, you're kind of working for John Deere or whoever's leasing you that stuff. You know, that's who really owns your ass, right?
Yeah.
Egg is and like I came into it late, just like how you got into cowboying late. I came into it late only at like for me it was like 13, 14, 15 type of thing on the dairy side. And just you see the perspective, you're almost like an outsider looking in to everything, and you see a few things here and there, and you're less like, how does this pencil like sometimes? And now I know the business side, I'm like, how does this pencil out? You know, like it just doesn't make sense sometimes. So it's very interesting right now.
Yeah, you see the diversity, right, and people coming through, in how they're able to make the most out of things, right? And I think that's where people got to think, you know. So like the generation before us, was as much land as possible. You know, the big, bad, big, bad. And what we really need to start studying in this country, and, you know, as far as young people go, is European models, you know, and being a little bit smarter about things, you know, and learning how to buy things locally, you know, and promote locally, right? And trying to get rid of foreign control on our markets.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, beef alone, you know, guys are getting, you know, what's it average out to, you know, if they're getting, you know, 3.5 on a 4 or 5 weight steer, they're doing pretty good, you know. And, you know, like, have you been to the grocery store lately? Try and buy a steak, and somehow that sucker's $30 for half a pound. You're like, okay, someone's making money here, and it ain't the guy that's making this possible.
Hands down. I always, our one buddy who owns one of those, he owns a farm to fork operation. His thing is always find a farm, find somebody. Don't just go to the grocery store. Find somebody, help them out, type of thing. So,
and it's the same thing in the saddle business too, right? You know, like, you can ride one of my rigs, you know, and that's why I use Herman oak leather, because it's made here in North America, Canadian and American steers, and I'm supporting the people that support me, right? Like, and that's you know, the increase in, you know, like, how do we beat this and how do we get through tough times in this economy is by buying local, whatever it is, right? Yeah, you might spend a little bit more at times, but there's something behind it, right? You know, you can go and buy it from one of them name brand stores, but at the end of the day, it's my name that you see sponsoring your junior rodeo. It's my name that you see at your local 4-H show, right? It's not their names, right? So why back them up?
Yeah, no doubt.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have any more questions? Should we ask the last one here?
I think we can get into the last one here. No, this has been great so far. We asked all of our guests this question. Probably the most important question. Favorite beer?
Oh, this is a good one for you because I don't drink.
Okay. Favorite juice?
Favorite juice? Okay, so when I did drink, you know, like when I did have a couple, and I never had like a problem or anything. I'm not like recovering or something like that, right? I just stopped. But my favorite one was definitely a cold Corona on a hot day. That was
lime in there.
Yeah, maybe. I was good without the lime though. Even you know, that was kind of a good one. But my go-to drink, and I picked this up in the States, is just tea, like cold tea.
Like an American iced tea. Not like the Canadian where it's like the Sweden version, like the like an original iced tea.
Yeah, like just tea that's cold, you know. I find that it's probably one of the most hydrating things that you could possibly drink outside of water.
Would you dump any sugar in there though, or just leave it as is?
Just straight up the way it is. Yeah.
Just raw dog it.
Raw dogging it. Sometimes I'll throw some frozen strawberries in there instead of ice, you know. But that's probably my go-to.
Awesome.
You guys, what's yours?
I really like, I've kind of turned into a bit of a hipster lately, and I really like the craft beers, like the IPAs, but I'm drinking regular beer. I've been drinking a lot of Pilsner, so that's kind of my go-to.
That's cool. You know, there's this one place that I would have loved to have tried. You know, it obviously wasn't open, but it's locally. They call it Sturgeon Brewing Company here, just down the road in Morinville. And I would have loved to have supported something like that.
Yeah, no, I like getting beer from the local breweries around here. Like there's a couple, and there's one in Sylvan and a couple in Red Deer that it's you know, we were just talking about supporting local, right? It's kind of the same thing with that as well, right?
We're gonna thank you real quick, just on the air quick. So thank you again for coming on. I appreciate it. Do you want to shout out your socials quick or no?
Sure. It's pretty easy to find. It's Kootenay Saddlery, TikTok, Instagram. and Facebook. Those are pretty easy to find, and yeah, I'd love to have people on there.
Right
Awesome.
on. All right. Well, thanks again, eh?
Thanks again. And that was our interview with Joe Kootenay from Kootenay Saddlery. Thank you again, Joe.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe.
Be sure to check out all of his socials on at Kootenay Saddlery on Instagram.
Man, you really struggle with that word.
Kootenay Saddlery on Instagram and TikTok. He has some pretty good TikToks.
Yeah.
They've been kind of throwing up. They were throwing into my feed a little bit before the interview, and now since we're friends on both, I've been looking at quite a bit of his, and I quite like his stuff. So
Yeah.
good stuff. All right, so now we're gonna go into our final little segment here. This or that. Just basically a little game that we play. Mason, you said you got one right off the dome, eh?
Yeah. Do you have one though?
No, you go first.
Okay. A pirate ship or a yacht?
Yacht.
You're
I'm going with the yacht.
You're such a loser.
I'm going with the yacht. So
Damn, that's a wrong answer. Yep, clearly the correct answer.
no. All right, this or that. Would you rather wear a hockey jersey or a basketball jersey?
What time of year is it?
Springtime. So it could be either or.
What function are we going to?
Doesn't matter. Just pick one.
Hockey jersey.
Hockey. I'm always with the hockey
Okay.
jersey.
But not gonna lie, basketball jerseys, if you're like going to like a summer party,
Yeah.
if you're going to like like a big party or something in the summer
Yeah.
when it's hot out, basketball jersey is kind of nice for that.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
But if it's like a little nippy out or it's not like super hot out,
Yeah.
hockey jersey all the way.
Oh yeah, hands down. I had another one off the top of my head. Oh, but when you're doing your work, I don't know if we've done this one before. I might have already done this one. But when you're doing your work, your office work, whatever, you're writing stuff down, are you a black or blue pen guy?
I'm a big blue pen guy. I used to be a big black pen guy, but I've transitioned.
I'm a black pen guy now. I got some good black pens that I like.
You're black pen now?
I'm black pen. I was blue and now I'm black.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, like it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter, but
No.
you also find your favorite pen and then whatever color that is.
Although I remember I was at the I'm like, yeah, why does that matter? And he's like, if you sign up documents in blue, then you're just gonna drill for water or whatever. Like it's a big like thing. Black, then you're gonna get oil. If it's blue, you're just gonna get water. So superstitious bullshit.
Fair enough.
This or that. Pens versus pencils.
Pens up where you get lazy, it gets all messy. Pens just look nicer.
Yeah, I'm big pen guy. Big pen guy. Yeah.
Pen.
Although I will admit, when I was younger, I was a big pencil guy.
Yeah.
Because like you can fix your mistakes with a pencil.
But now I just don't care. I'm just like, oh, whatever, and it looks better. So
although I've had to, since I've started using now pen pretty much for everything, I've had to adjust my writing style because I'm left-handed.
Yep.
Or else I just start smudging everything, especially because the pens I use, they got a good flow of ink, so they don't dry right away. But I remember seeing this post that like NASA spent like $1 million to create this pen that could like write underwater and upside down and in space and like in extreme heat, and then Canada just brought a pencil.
Nice. All right, I got another one. Completely random from the other ones. Because now you've been fixing some fence now, more so recently. Do you rather fix wooden panel fencing or barbed wire fence?
Well, it's pretty easy because you just go zoop.
So wooden fence?
Yeah,
I'd rather fix that. Yeah. Also, you're not
going to cut yourself.
It also looks a bit better.
Yeah, it does.
Maybe is the functionality quite there? Not maybe towards the same as barbed wire.
If you're doing like long stretches of fence, barbed wire is way more practical. But
yeah.
But if you got lots of time,
that's
really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
You got time and you got the materials, then whatever. Just go
exactly
for wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you got any more? No.
Tits or ass? No, I'm just kidding.
Nah. That won't be answered on this podcast. All right, well, folks, thanks again for tuning in. Be sure to tell a friend.
Tell that friend, tell a friend.
And also check us out on our socials at Hicks from the Sticks on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Also be sure to check out every Sunday at 7:00. Our episodes are now being live streamed on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So
Got nothing better to do on a Sunday evening. There you go.
yeah, exactly. 7:00 Sunday. This episode is out. I guess. Yeah.
Right on.
Right on.
Awesome. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.